Good morning. And Eunice, thank you for making time today. It is Thursday, May 18th. So you and I met about 25 years ago when I consulted you at LifeWork Direction, which was the process that you and your husband, Don, developed to help people discover their vocations and passions. 25 years later, you and I are in very, very different places. I'm now 72. You are 93, I believe. Is that right? And I'm retired. And upon retirement, I actually discovered, or there was a process before that, that I discovered my real passion, which is animal advocacy. And because I had the burden of having to make money, I was never able to do that until I retired. So, but I really believe the process we went through helped me to get there. But why did I want to do this recording? Is a question I ask myself. And I hope it's the first among several. So I learned from you, Eunice, and over the years, my friends have said, I wish I had a Eunice. So this is my way of sharing Eunice. First of all, you have the perspective of someone who has lived more than 90 years. And you are someone who continues to be curious. And thirdly, as a friend used to say about certain people, you have something to say. Now, I know you warned me yesterday. You said you're an individual and that you do not in any way feel like you have wisdom to impart. So I'm underlining that for our audience. However, I learn from you, and I often am inspired by some of the things that you have to say. So I'm not sure what my first question should be. I have a bunch of questions written down, but I wonder if you have any thoughts based on what I've just said.
Well, of course, you know me. It's the words you say, and
Yes.
You use two very interesting ones. The first one was retired. Does that mean being tired again? No, it means getting new tires. Because I'm not tired. And then what was the other thing? The word depart. Where did that come from? Why did I pick that up?
I think you made that up. And
I think I did too. Saying. There was another word you used that I just related to right away.
Discovered? I used the word.
Well, uncovering. Yes. Is kind of a thing about honesty and truth. Truth is so elusive and important.
Yeah.
And freeing.
Yes.
The truth shall make you free. Wow. Who said that?
I don't know who said it, but it is true. I believe it's true.
It was a very good person. They call him the Son of God.
Oh, all right. So it was Jesus.
The truth shall make you free. Well, one of those writers, someplace. I have so many quotes. I don't always know where they come from.
Well, and I knew that quote, but I didn't know who said it. So
you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Those are such important words, like know. Like know contains in it N-O. And what we know and what we don't know is so important. Mm-hmm. Remember the thing on the wall? It was done by Thich Nhat Hanh.
Okay.
That somebody bought it. I'm sure it cost her a lot of money, but she got it framed and I put it on my wall. And it was be still and know.
Yes. Yes.
And that was there to remind me and whoever sat in that chair. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And what was the name of, not the room where I would meet with you and Don, but your smaller room where I met with you?
Poustinia. The
Yes.
poustinia, that's a word that comes from, yeah, it's a word that refers to a special place that's set apart. Yeah.
And Monk used to be with us periodically.
Yes, and sometimes he'd go to sleep on the windowsill, and all of a sudden, the sitting in the chair, who's unaware, realized they were touching him.
Yes,
The
exactly.
cat, yeah. And his
So
name was Monk,
I know, and
so
a
he knew
black,
how to be still.
yes, he did. He did. Cats are very good at that. And then they're very good at being active quickly when they need to be. So one of the things that you've talked about over the last couple of years is, and these are my words, the relinquishment of control. So I remember one thing you talked about, I don't know whether you can talk about it now, but having a roommate that was not of your choosing. And how did you handle that? I don't know whether you want to say anything about that.
I'm not free to at this moment, of
Okay.
course. Yeah.
Um,
But the roommate that I had that I was in love with, my husband, also, I didn't have to worry about trying to control him. He was a very forceful man, but he was he cherished my independence and his own.
yes.
And so we were together, but in harmony.
Mm.
You need both the alto and the bass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, you certainly seem that way. Both, what word would I use? I was going to use the word powerful, but I don't quite like that word. Substantive. I like that better. Substantive. Well, perhaps you could talk about the lack of control, or what control you do have following your stroke, which I know made a difference in terms of what you're able to do.
You hit it on the head. You did. When you lose control, unfortunately, I did not lose control of my brain. It would be easier if I had. But I see clearly that I don't have control. But that doesn't give me any more control.
Mm-hmm.
To know that. Yeah, without control. It's a big subject. Maybe other things that you ask will bore into it, because it is totally relevant. You went right to the core. What can I do?
Well, yeah,
I'm so grateful it's you I'm talking to, because that's where we connect. In ways that are strange, that may not make sense to other people. Like my images of you are very specific, and I gave them to you when we talked, a day ago and everything. But there's something when you feel that something inside of you connects with something inside of another person.
yes. Although I have to say, over the years, you have shared perceptions of me, often when we were talking about the Enneagram. And you were
Yes.
so convinced I was a 3. And I kept saying, Eunice, I'm not a 3. But you saw something in me that made you believe I was a 3. And it doesn't really matter who's right or wrong. But I think it's often interesting that one person sees something in another that that person doesn't see themselves. And my guess is I see things in you that maybe you don't see in yourself.
Yeah, that I'm so glad you hit right at the heart of it, you know, because no, one characteristic of a 3 is they are very quick in things, and that's dangerous.
Hmm.
And I'm facing that without detailing it right now with you, but I'm facing that's at the core of me.
Hmm.
Haste,
Okay. Yes.
control, and haste. Quick, quick. Curiosity is wonderful. Slow down.
Hmm.
You may not see the whole picture yet.
Hmm.
And for me not to have probed more intelligently into what it was that you did not identify with and what you did is, you know, that's helpful information.
Hmm.
And somehow we're able to cross that bridge right now. This may be important to both you and me,
Hmm.
that you're asking me to do this, and yet I failed you in that regard.
Hmm.
You know, failure is like the end of the road for a 3. No, it is.
I hear you. I hear you. But so if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that my telling you that I didn't identify so much with being a 3, but you had this perception, and that you're learning that for you to slow down would be helpful. And that
Well,
may,
and what I'm realizing right now is that the what I identified in you had some truth in it, but in a different, it held in a different jar or texture than the 3. Because 3s are not the only ones on the Enneagram who like to be in control and like to move quickly and so on.
Mhm,
They're not the only ones who
right.
have those qualities. 3s in general are very successful.
So when you say that you have had to address your quickness, I mean, that's the way you operate, and your desire to be in control. I think most people like to be in control. I don't think that's uncommon, but perhaps not everybody is as quick as you're describing yourself. So, given where you are in your life right now, how is that impacting this acknowledgement that you would like to perhaps slow down?
Slowing down is essential for going to a deeper place. When you're 93, you don't have a bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you get into the bucket and let yourself go down to the well and get a different kind of water or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So do you feel like you are able to slow down a little bit more now? Are you discovering that?
It's a daily thing. It's a daily thing because I can't do much here.
Mhm.
I am interested in the third stage of life. Richard Rohr and others have often talked about the two phases of life, that at 50 people wake up and go inner and everything.
Yes.
But we've been living longer now, so it's not a 2-stage life, it's a 3-stage.
I believe that's, yeah.
Yeah, and from 75 on, we're facing a whole new possibility and chaos, confusion, and new kinds of ways of being in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, it's extraordinary what we're going through now. These people, they are friends of yours. Are they mostly more than 60?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But they've been hearing me talk about you for over a decade. So they were not over 60 when we first started talking.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and one of them is close in age to me. The other one is about 10 years younger. So um, I know for myself, turning 70 kind of shifted things for me.
Yeah.
And I often think to myself, there's no denying you have been to the top of the mountain. You are on the descent, and you can't. That's just reality. And so you said you don't have a bucket list anymore. I still have a bucket list, but I think pretty realistic about certain things that are just not going to happen in my life. And it doesn't necessarily make me sad, but it's just bumping up against reality. But you and I are in different places too. There's a 21-year difference. And I mean, I knew you when you were in your early 70s. And I know you now in your early 90s. You knew me in my early 50s and know me now in my early 70s. I feel very different now than I did in my early 50s. And I have to say, I'm more content. Um, and the reason I came to consult with you and Don 24, 23 years ago was that I wasn't content. And I was hoping that the two of you would be able to help me it felt like I needed to peel away layers. And we worked really hard. Um, and for whatever reason, I have some ideas why, but I'm not going to get into it here. It would take too long. Was not able to tap the wellspring. And the wellspring has been tapped now. I think you tapped your wellspring way earlier in your life than I did. I was in my, late 50s probably when I realized what was vital for me. I think based on some of the work I've read in your books, you had a much greater sense of direction early on in your life, which I think is a blessing. But that's my perception, just like you had a perception of me as a 3. I have perceptions of you and they could be wrong.
No, you're right about mine. I had 3 major careers and they were all the same. What is the meaning and purpose of life? And my first one was with children, 13-year-olds, especially girls, in a camp club program. And my message to them, they used to joke about my campfire stories. They said, "Oh, that's number 27. Your Eunice is on tonight. It's number 27." The message was, in your life, in your Christian life, there's joy. I came that you might have life and have it more abundantly. That's what Jesus said. it was just joy, and I love music, and I loved singing in the dining hall. I danced on the tabletop. I was so excited by music. And my next thing, I went into therapy and changed a lot, and that's when I got married.
Mhm.
And we were concerned about college kids because the kids we knew were in Christian colleges in the Midwest, often in Kansas or Indiana or farmlands, and they weren't attuned to what was happening in the cities. And Martin Luther King had just been killed. And so we started the Urban Life Center there, and there were two aspects to it. One was come to the city and see how beautiful it is. And that Blacks were doing drama, theater, they were doing art and everything. And the city itself is such a wonderful place. And we were in touch with what's called self-directed learning, which was new on the educational scene. So professors in the colleges would come and bring their students because they were trying to be more in their teaching, more practical and in touch with things. But they were often, the Mennonites are sort of rural people. A lot of them were from rural areas. And then when we moved to Chicago, I knew what I wanted to do was to help people to find, their calling. And
Yes.
that's when we started Life Work Direction.
Yes. And remind me what year that was, Eunice.
1980.
Wow. Okay. And I didn't meet you until probably 1999, 2000, somewhere around there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you had been in it for 20 years or so. Well, I think that may be a good place for us to end today. And I'm hoping that we can pick up maybe where we left off. But I love how you talked about 3 stages of your life, and you're really in a different stage now. And that's
But
what
it's still the same. It's still the same. What is the purpose and meaning
yes.
of this stage? It's curiosity and eagerness to have control are related.
Mm.
It's good to be eager and curious. It's bad to move too fast.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you again for making
Thank you
time.
for confessing what a mistake I made. I was too quick, and I'm so sorry. I mean, it's not the worst mistake anyone can make. At least it made you think and everything, and maybe
Yes.
it made you more accurately detect what moves you. And I hope that's true.
Oh, it definitely is true. I do know what moves me. I do know what moves me. And you are one of the people that moves me.
Mm.